Episode 2 Adopt or Shop? The Canine Dilemma Dividing the Country.
With over 6.4 million domestic dogs living in Australia, the demand for pets has never been higher, with 30% of Australians living with one pet already considering getting another. But with this desire comes one crucial question: where should we get them from? Adopt, don't shop is a phrase often tossed around with little thought into what it actually means. Is adopting a shelter dog always best? What if they come with behavioural or health issues? And what about people with allergies? There are several hypoallergenic dog breeds, but it's very unlikely to find one at the local pound. And how about people looking for a specific breed? Different types of dogs have different requirements, like exercise levels or grooming needs. And if you do choose to shop, how on earth can you tell a good breeder from a bad one? In today's episode, we'll be answering all those and more. Welcome to Adopt or Shop, the Canine Dilemma Dividing the Country. In 2023 alone, Dogs Australia reported there being 56,491 purebred dogs registered in Australia. But despite this, there are over 200,000 dogs in shelters, with around 2,000 tragically having to be put down by the RSPCA alone. So, if there are so many unwanted dogs, why are we breeding more? Kimberly Stark has been breeding Cocker Spaniels crossed with poodles, or spoodles as she likes to call them, for 4 years now. Currently reigning supreme as one of the most popular breeds in Australia, she says her clients are drawn to the dogs for a variety of reasons.
Health, their temperament, they're a very solid, very grounded, very stable breed. They don't have known issues similarly to the cavoodles. There's no real issues, provided you do all of your health testing and you get a clean bill of health. You take your time, you really do your due diligence to get into breeding. But they are the most beautiful dog. They're spunky, they're effervescent. They are known as the social butterfly of all the dogs, of all of the pups out there. And they really are. They are very inquisitive. They're naturally curious. They're not aggressive. They are like a beautiful teddy bear with a bit of spunk.
She says the difference between herself, a self-proclaimed ethical breeder, and an unethical breeder is why they breed the dogs and how they decide who gets those dogs.
Well, it depends how they make interest. They could call, they could email, they could messenger, they could come through Instagram, they could put in an application straight out of the blue. They might find me on Rightpaw. Basically, if we were just to chat, they seem quite coherent and can carry a good conversation and ask me some questions, and I'll ask them back, don't you worry. I will invite them to fill in an application which is very detailed, and then we'll go from there. So the application itself, which is found on our website online, it's quite a detailed and in-depth application. Families or people who give one-word answers and things like that, I will just let them know that we're not the breed of them. I want them to know about our breed. I want them to love the breed. If they're still doing their due diligence, I'm happy to chat with them for as long as it takes until they say, you're my person, So applying online is what they need to do. Then we have a chat. We look at their timing. When would they like to welcome a puppy into their home? We look at our wait lists. And currently, I think I have just literally a handful or under spaces available on the entirety of 2025. So, and that's our protocols. We breed to our wait list. Okay, we ethically and responsibly breed with a purpose, and our purpose is to better the breed and to give exceptional families exceptional puppies.
Kim says there's plenty of reasons someone looking for a dog might choose to come to a breeder like her rather than adopting from a shelter.
You don't know what you're getting. What's happened to the dog? What happened what food was it brought up, on so that it's going to have a healthy skeletal system, a healthy heart, a great brain, a really healthy skin, all of the things, no allergies and things. You don't know the background. You don't know if they've got severe underlying issues. Those shelters and rescues, even the RSPCA, they won't go into that depth. So You just don't know. That dog could end up costing you a small fortune or even a large fortune. You just don't know.
Natalie Newell, the owner of a dog she purchased from a breeder, agrees that adoption isn't a good fit for every family.
We wanted a dog that didn't molt because we wanted a dog that we could have inside on occasion. And oodles, because they have the poodle part of them, don't molt and they're not very big. So we wanted something that was like under knee height that we could have inside on times. And the temperament was important as well. So we wanted to have something that was friendly. Yeah.
When choosing whether to adopt a dog from a shelter or buy one, she said she was concerned about the animal coming to them with preconceived issues.
The problem we have with that is the fact that we're just not sure what happened to the dog beforehand. And so we're not sure what kind of problems it could bring. And when we had children, or not adult, teenage children at that stage in the house, we just didn't want to have issues. We wanted to have them from puppies so that we could raise it the way we wanted to raise them. And obviously we've raised them well and we've trained them and everything like that. So I think, look, I absolutely support there is a need for rescue dogs, but it just didn't suit what we were looking for at the time. We wanted something that we could raise the way we wanted to raise it without that unknown quantity that sometimes rescue dogs can have.
But despite breeders like Kim's diligence towards producing healthy animals that'll end up in good homes like Natalie's, not everyone agrees that this system should exist. Tessa van der Sant is the head of wildlife services at the RSPCA and has been working with the organisation for over 14 years.
I guess I might be a bit biased because I work at RSPCA and I don't really believe that we should continue to breed animals. I know there's a lot of really great ethical breeders out there and good on them. They are doing the right things. You know, they're vaccinating, they're worming, they're, taking amazing care of their puppies. But I personally believe, and this is my own personal thing, not really RSPCA, is that a lot of our genetic breeding is usually not a good thing because we see a lot of not a lot of good genetic diversity. So that's why we get a lot of issues with a lot of those pure breeds. So for example, things like pugs and Frenchies with those really short snouts, they have a lot of breathing problems. And generally by the time they're about 4 or 6, they have to have major surgery to try to fix their airways so they can breathe properly. And then if you go down the other route, looking at, so for example, like German Shepherds, again, their genetic diversity is quite small. A lot of that interbreeding happens, and then they get really bad back, legs and hip dysplasia and spines and spinal injuries and things like that. So
Tessa feels there needs to be tougher restrictions around dog breeding to prevent abusive conditions.
I think there is, from what we see. I don't think it's necessarily in Brisbane though. It's generally those more rural areas that we might see. Yeah, I just definitely believe there needs to be some type of legislation or law against parameters or something around how many we can breed, how often, do you need a certificate to apply to breed? Whatever it might be, but just to control it a bit more, definitely.
Her experience with large-scale, profit-driven breeding operations, or puppy mills, has left a sour taste in her mouth when it comes to dog breeding.
A lot of the dogs were in cages. They were quite small, covered in feces, multiple dogs and puppies in one enclosure. A lot of them are generally covered in fleas. They're dirty. They have worms, which is quite common as well. And a lot of them also have behaviour concerns and issues as well because they're confined in small spaces. They're getting limited human interaction. They might start kind of repetitive behaviours where they might bark, they might spin, they might pace up and down the cage and things like that. And a lot of those behaviours are really challenging for us to fix because it's usually a learned behaviour. Which is really unfortunate. Yeah.
However, Kim doesn't think responsible breeders have anything to do with the overflow of dogs in shelters.
How many spoodles do you see in a dog shelter? The people that can afford to buy our dogs, no matter what, but the people that afford to buy the dogs can afford to keep them, can afford to flea, tick and worm and vaccinate yearly, can afford to deal with should anything go wrong. My dogs are sold with healthcare and health cover. The overpopulation, I think, is breeders who do the opposite of me. They breed and then they hope to sell, whereas I breed to my wait list, and it's as simple as that. I don't understand the mentality, because if someone is touting all this, if they would just stop and think as to why those dogs are in those shelters in the first place. Yes, there are people who are just breeding and breeding and breeding in the hope to make, I won't say a quick buck, because breeding's not for the faint-hearted. You know, you can rack up a bill of $5,000 and even more just with a problem with a pregnancy, or a problem with a whelp when the dam goes into labour. It's a very one-eyed agenda, and I think people get involved, and when they really sit down, as I've had discussions with people, to say, well, why do you suppose those dogs were taken by that family or let go in the middle of nowhere, or however? Why? It's because the family didn't know that they could bring that dog back to their breeder. That's because their breeder has, what's the word they use now? Ghosted them, not answering emails, phone calls, texts, those sorts of things. And they are not ethical breeders. They are rubbish, despicable breeders.
Tracy Carroll chose to adopt her dog Luna, a bull Arab cross, from a foster program because she felt that it would be giving the dog a new chance at life.
The biggest thing for me is I didn't have an idea of what kind of dog we wanted. I really just wanted to connect with the dog rather than a specific breed. We don't have any allergies or didn't need anything specific in a dog. We just wanted companionship. But I did really like the idea of saving a life. You don't know where these dogs have come from. Just did feel good that we were able to save her and to bring her into a good life. I was conscious about costs. I didn't want to spend thousands on a dog.
So you finally made the decision. You're skipping the shelters and you're getting your new puppy straight from the source. It's time to begin the search for an ethical breeder that will provide your new best friend. But where should you start? Well, both Kim and Tessa agree on one thing. Skip the Facebook marketplace. You're much more likely to fall for a scam or end up buying your dog from an abusive, unregistered operation. But how can you tell the difference between a legitimate, ethical breeder and a puppy mill?
Well, that's a great question, and it's one that I wish more people did ask. We often hear of some horror stories by the time people find us, which is both good and bad, I suppose, but it'd be nice if every breeder out there was doing the right thing. But initially, you know, if you come across someone or somebody told you about something, I'd be looking them up on their social media or looking for them there, looking for a website, Googling them, just going for a nice deep Google and, you know, finding out if they do have a presence. And I believe a red flag is that if a breeder doesn't have a presence online, well, how can you be sure that they are legitimate? You know, additionally, if they have no formal application process, such as a proper online application or some clear details about their waitlist or what they're looking for, that would be a red flag. People who just hand out a phone number and then you can't see anything about them. A great breeder wants to shout what they do from the rooftops, which is why we are transparent. You know, so that would ring an alarm bell to me.
And what about health-wise? I don't want to buy a dog that's got underlying health issues I don't know about.
So the testing of the puppies? Absolutely. Again, you would want to make sure that they have a huge abundance of health testing. If a breeder isn't happy to provide verifiable proof of any alleged testing or tests that they say they've been performed or that they have been performed or they do perform for the breeding pet, DNA profiles, hip and elbow scoring, patella checks, that's very important. But what's even more important than them doing all of those tests is the results of those tests. So I say, buyer beware, do your due diligence and ask to see these tests, because I'm more than happy to show people. I love it when people ask.
Good to know. So the answer to the question, should I adopt or shop, is do what's best for you and your household. There are so many different reasons why people choose to do either or even both. So as long as you do your research and make sure you're always buying from a reputable, ethical breeder, it's okay to adopt and shop. Stick around for our next episode, where we'll be taking an in-depth dive into how our cute canine companions can have a devastating effect on our wildlife. This has been the Canine Connection, the relationship between dogs and native Australian wildlife.